Hi folks, Chris here. Today I'm talking about something that's not completely indispensable, but is a super useful tool to have in your belt. And that is memorizing the notes on the fretboard. So this is my approach to learning those notes. Now it's best to have a variety of approaches. The more different ways you can memorize things, the more you'll be able to link them together and remember them. So I'll go through a couple of the ways that I've approached this. The first thing that I do is try to memorize all of the natural notes. So leaving out the sharps and flats, just the whole notes. Now I started with anywhere on the neck that there is a line of these natural notes all the way across the neck. So this happens in 3 places. The first one is at the nut here. So you've got E, A, D, G, B, E. Most people probably would learn that first because those are your string names. So you've got E, A, D, G, B, and E. The second place this occurs is at the 5th fret. So you've got A, D, G, C, E, A. And except for the 3rd string here, these equate to the next string up. So this is how a lot of people tune the guitar. And the 3rd place it occurs is at the 10th fret up here. So you've got D, G, C, F, A, D. And then again at the 12th fret, obviously it repeats. So you've got E, A, D, G, B, E again at the 12th fret. So even just starting with this, you've got the open strings, 5th fret, 10th fret, and then the 12th fret. And that obviously repeats up at the 17th fret and so on. So you've actually already got an anchor point at sort of reasonably spaced distances up and down the neck. And if you can think, either side of that, you're already quite a long way towards memorizing the notes. The next thing I would do is pick up any other key areas. So for example, at the 7th fret, you've got B, E, A, D, and then moving up to the 8th fret, G, C. Now, anyone who's familiar with the circle of fifths or moving the other way around the circle of fourths will be familiar with this pattern. B, E, A, D, G, C, and F. And that's because those are moving up in fourths and the guitar is mostly tuned in fourths. So each subsequent string is moving up by a fourth. Except for the 2nd and 3rd string here, the 3rd moving up to the 2nd is a 3rd. So you'll actually find that pattern all over the neck. For example, at the nut here, so leaving off the B, we've got E, A, D, G. Another important area is at the 3rd fret here, so you've got G, C, F. You might recognize those as the roots of your G and C open chords. And up here at the 8th fret, you've got C and F. And again, I find these useful as roots for some pretty common chords, the C chord and the F chord, that you'll come across quite a lot. So just with those vertical strings, and even if you're just focusing on the top 2 strings here, you've got the open strings at the nut, 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, 8th fret, 10th fret, and 12th fret where it repeats. After you've memorized those vertical positions that I've just outlined, it's a good idea to also incorporate some horizontal patterns. So the one that I use is a fingering pattern. It looks like this. You've got a gap between your 1st and middle finger and between your 3rd and 4th finger. And if you place that beginning at an A here on the 5th fret, for example, then you'll have A, B, C, D. If you place it beginning on a D at the 5th fret, 5th string, for example, then you'll have D, E, F, G. And with those 2 patterns, you've covered from A to G. They sit on top of each other vertically, and they also back onto each other horizontally. So if we start, say, on the open A here, then you've got B, C, D, and then move up, and you're starting on the D, E, F, G, skip a whole tone, and you're back at the A again. So by seeing that pattern all around the neck, both vertically and horizontally, you'll be able to find that just by locating an A and a D everywhere on the neck, then you'll be able to cover the rest of the notes that sit around those 2 key points. So having gone over vertically the natural notes, horizontally the natural notes, Finally, it's time to add in your accidentals, so your sharps and your flats. For reasons that I won't go into here, you'll more commonly find a C sharp than a D flat, and an F sharp than a G flat. And likewise, you'll more commonly find B flat, E flat, and A flat than their relative sharps. So you just go through, you find all your B, E, and A, for example, and add the flats 1 fret below. So for example, at the 7th fret here, these top 3 strings, you've got at the 6th fret, B flat, E flat, A flat, and for your sharps, you just find your C and F. Again, they're going to be above each other, and you just move up 1 fret. So on the 9th fret here, you've got C sharp, F sharp, and so on. This is also a good chance to highlight one other pattern that I see, which is if you've got a single note, obviously you've got 6 of them across the neck, and I group those into 2 patterns. So if we take this C sharp at the 4th fret here, move up 2 strings, up 2 frets, and move up 3 strings and back 2 frets, you have this V pattern. And then the other pattern is up here at the 9th fret. So you've got the 6th string, move up 2 strings, up 2 frets, and then it's repeated on the 1st string. So you've got this sort of T shape and this V shape, and that's a good way to locate. If you've got any one single note, you'll be able to find the other 6 notes. So finally, a few closing remarks. This is just a guide to learning where the notes are. You need to use these techniques to learn where the notes are first, but then you need to memorize them so that they're basically instantaneous. Another thing is that, in my case at least, I started off learning the notes sort of verbally by like saying them in my head, so B, A. But I quickly found that when you're actually playing, the auditory part of your brain is already engaged with, the melody and the sound of the notes. So it's kind of like trying to do 2 things at once, playing and then saying, A or whatever. So in my case, the visual part of your brain is free when you're playing. So it's easier to see patterns and things like that. So for me, it was better to be able to see the notes sort of visually, or picture them in my mind, than to say them in my head. That's a little bit abstract, but I hope that made sense. So that'll do it for today. Not much playing, but something that I think is super valuable and that will really pay off if you put the time and effort in to learn this stuff. If you've got any of your own tips or things that really worked for you for memorizing the fretboard, leave them in the comments down below, and I'll see you all in the next video.